Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Metropolitan Report Live. I am Alfred Parsard Jr. And before I begin, if you are watching this on YouTube, yes, we are on YouTube, we are on Twitch, and we are on Facebook. If you are on any of those platforms, make sure to give us a like. Make sure to subscribe if you're on YouTube. Sound off in the comments. Looking forward to talking Mets talk with everybody, seeing what everybody has to say about my opinions. And again, like, subscribe, comment, and let's grow this channel, make this show much more special than it already is. But I'm just going to hop right into it, folks. The New York Mets, unfortunately, are in a bit of a funk. The Mets got swept by the Cleveland Guardians at home. They played today at 1 p.m., almost got no hit. Is not really much more to say other than the offense is putrid. Swept in San Diego, lost 2 or 3 at home to the Giants, swept at home by the Guardians. This is not good. Losers is what I could describe this Mets team as. The Mets are lucky to even still be in contention of something the way that they've been playing. They've lost 8 of the last 9 games. 8 of the last 9, folks. I'm just at a disbelief. You know, we came on this show last week after the trade deadline. I praised David Stearns. He picked up Cedric Mullins. He picked up Gregory Soto. He picked up Tyler Rogers. He picked up Ryan Helsley. All of a sudden, there's talk of a Mets super bullpen, if we could even call it that. But the pieces are just not clicking right now. You got a cold offense. You got a bad pitching staff still, even with all the acquisitions. It's just very frustrating being a supporter of this team. It's very frustrating. It is very frustrating being a fan of this team, and to have to cover this team in that fashion is just. It's just not fun. It's not fun at all. I don't know what more to say. Like I'm very disappointed in this Mets team. You have a team, and we'll be checking comments throughout the night. So just make sure to post a comment. My good friend Ryan Peterson, Alphonse, my man, wanted to spread the love. Thank you, Ryan, for tuning in as we talk New York Mets baseball. But it's very frustrating what's going on. And my good friend of the show, Bryson Carver, what has happened to the offense? I don't know, Bryson. You see, it was one thing when Juan Soto was cold. Lindor and Pete were hitting. It was one thing when Lindor was cold. Soto came alive in June. Alonso cooled off a little but was still hitting. But now all three guys. It's very, very frustrating to say the least. I'm just at a loss for words. And here I am thinking, all right, the Guardians. Now here's something that's interesting, right? The Guardians don't have a closer, and they don't have a setup man. For those of you not in the know, Emmanuel Clase he got caught gambling. He's in investigation by MLB. Their setup man, Clase setup man, Luis Ortiz, same situation. Their lockers over in Cleveland in their stadium have been cleared out. Nobody knows if they'll ever even pitch again in the majors. And for a team who's missing the two best pieces of their bullpen, they sure did shut our offense down. They absolutely did shut the offense down. So I honestly, I just don't know. I do not know. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to tell anybody. But I don't know what's going on with this Mets offense, with the ball club. And then the usual suspects are not hitting. Francisco Alvarez, when we first recalled him from Syracuse, the man was on fire. Now, quieter than a mouse in church. My good friend Bobby Munoz, bad stretch for the Amazons right now. Bad stretch, Bobby, doesn't even begin to describe what's going on. Bobby says he will be in Atlanta in a few weeks. The Mets and Braves, they actually they do play in Atlanta in a few weeks, and the Braves actually come to Citi Field next week. I will be in Citi Field next week to cover that series, middle of the week series. But it is like it's getting from bad to worse here, and I don't know if it's a managerial change that's needed, maybe hitting coaches, maybe. I couldn't tell you what the answer is because it seems like nothing is working. Roberto Reynoso, my good friend Berto, if I woke up in charge of the Mets tomorrow, what would I change day one to get the team back on track? All right, that's a good question, Berto. Matter of fact, we'll keep the question up so people can know what I'm responding to. So, if I was running the team, first off, this is what I would do. If I'm Carlos Mendoza and I have control over who's playing. Now, this is the mind-boggling thing to me. That this team traded for Cedric Mullins at the deadline. Cedric Mullins was the everyday center fielder for the Baltimore Orioles. And he has come to the Mets and become a bench piece. They made the guy that they traded for at the deadline a bench piece. You don't trade at the deadline to get bench pieces. You trade at the deadline to get players who are going to make an impact in your everyday lineup en route to the playoffs. That's what you make trades for. It's crazy to me. It's beyond crazy that here you have a guy plus defender plus speed, a guy that can run, and you don't play him? All right, since we're talking about Cedric Mullins. Cedric Mullins, and I'm going to answer the rest of the question, Berto, in a second. Bobby, I see your comments. I'll get to them in a minute. But Cedric Mullins, since he has become a member of the Mets, right? Cedric Mullins has had a total of 14 at-bats across 5 games. 1 game, he was a pinch hit substitution, August 1st against the Giants. He started August 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And he started so he's only missed. He hasn't started in 2 games that the Mets have had. And he didn't play on Tuesday. So what is that, 6 games? He really only started 4. Mullins has got to be an everyday guy. Now, I understand the Mets have now Mullins is a lefty. I understand the Mets have Jeff McNeil, Juan Soto, and Brandon Nimmo. When 1/3 of your lineup is composed of lefties, I understand that it's going to be difficult to put another lefty in there. But the majority of Major League Baseball uses right-handed starting pitching. So what difference or danger does it make to make the man the fourth lefty in a lineup that goes against a right-handed pitcher? Now, if the opposing team is starting a lefty, I understand the strategy. And not to mention, just like Juan Soto does, Mullins doesn't have an issue hitting lefties. Let's look at the Mets and who they have faced starting pitching-wise since coming back from the deadline. So we're going to go back to August 1st, Friday. All right, so the Mets, when they played the Giants on Friday night, Robbie Ray, left-handed pitcher. Okay, I can understand that. Kai Wei Tang on Saturday, the game they won, right-handed pitcher. Carson Whisenhunt, left-hander. I could get that, but he played. Slade Ciccone on Monday, right-hander. Logan Allen yesterday, left-hander. Today, Gavin Williams, right-hander. But you do not trade for a guy and don't make him the everyday guy. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Also, what I would do, if I'm running the team, I got to get a new hitting coach. Got to get a new hitting coach because I don't know what Eric Chavez and Barnes are doing, but whatever they're doing is not working. There is no reason why your three best hitters are all cold at the exact same time. Matter of fact, forget that. Forget the fact that the three best hitters on the team are cold. The Mets have not had a high octane offense all season. If you look about a lot of their wins, 1-run games, 2-run games, low scoring affairs. The pitching was on point earlier in the season, so they didn't need to score a lot of runs. Now the pitching is terrible, so you got to score runs. Say what you will, but it's very frustrating. Very, very frustrating. Very, like, something's got to give here. And I don't know what that something is, to be honest with you. But something has. There's no earthly way that there is no earthly way that you trade for a guy and there is just no earthly way that you trade for a guy and he's not the focal point, and then you're batting him eighth. Granted, I don't expect him to be second, third, fourth, the Lindor, Soto, Alonso spots. But why not fifth? He's a plus runner. You can put him first. We need to shake the lineup up. Brandon Nimmo's just not getting the job done anymore batting leadoff. That was a Buck Showalter favorite move. You got to switch it up. Lindor was great at leadoff. He went cold. Put somebody else in the leadoff. Jeff McNeil's a contact hitter. Why not him in the leadoff? This is the worst time to lose games. This is the absolute worst time to lose games. It's granted, there's no good time to lose games, but this is the worst time to lose games. This is the pennant race is heating up. Pennant race is heating up. Philadelphia. Now, here's the other crazy thing. The Phillies can't seem to lose. When we lose, they win. And then when they do lose, we don't even capitalize. We still lose. Let's look at the standings. National League East. Thank God the Phillies lost today. The lead is 2.5 games, so the Mets are 2.5 games back of the Philadelphia Phillies in the NL East. And then we look at the wild card. wild card standings, the Mets occupy the final wild card spot. Chicago and the Chicago Cubs and the San Diego Padres are above the Mets. Behind the Mets are the Cincinnati Reds. They're 3 games behind. So now we have to scoreboard watch and watch out for the Reds. Also got to watch out for the Giants, who ironically were sellers at the trade deadline, but somehow only 5 games back of that wild card spot. So very interesting conundrum there. Now let's see what you guys are saying here. Let's go to the comments. Bobby Munoz, a lot to say, my good friend Bobby. If I can pull his comment up. Coaching staff changes are needed. I agree. I'm not even going to sit here and pretend that coaching is not an issue. It clearly is. What else is Bobby saying here? I'm going to give Mullins some time to get adjusted to a new league. You know what, Bobby? I'm going to have to kindly disagree with you. If this was the days of old and there was no DH in the National League, I could kind of understand where that comment would come from. But I mean, guys, when they get traded, they either become one or two guys. They either adjust well and they are the guy who we traded for, or they just fall off a cliff. Let's not forget previous trade deadline acquisitions of seasons past. Darren Ruff, who didn't work out. Tyler Naquin back in 2022. Daniel Vogelback. We saw what he became eventually. Bobby also says he hits lefties well, referring to Cedric Mullins. Got a DFA a few people. DFA Tyrone Taylor. One thing about Bobby, since our episode last week, Bobby has been talking about getting rid of Tyrone Taylor. Romy is the best saying, ouch. Yes, I criticize the team when it needs to be. And my good friend who runs the official barbershop at the Metropolitan Report, Q-Borough Cuts, out in Ozone Park, he says Willie Adames. What about Willie Adames? That is the Giants shortstop. I don't think we should have went after him. But let's also talk, now that we've talked about the offense and Cedric Mullins, let's talk about another issue here for a second, the pitching. Primarily 2 pitchers who were not here to start the season, both on the IL. I'll talk about Sean Manaea and Frankie Montas. We'll pull up the graphic here. So these are the numbers for Montas and Manaea, who have both struggled since the return. Montas has had 7 starts. He's gone 3-2, so a positive win-loss record above 500. 6.68 ERA. He's had 29 strikeouts in 33 2/3 innings. And then you look at Sean Manaea, 5 starts, 1-1 win-loss record, 3.52 ERA, 25 Ks in 23 innings pitched. Now, I'm going to leave this up for the duration of time that I'm about to speak on this, but here's my problem. I have said on this show from the very beginning, I have been, not even a secret, I have been, we'll go back to the graphic in a second, but I have been a very vocal critic of this Frankie Montas experiment. I said it when they signed him. They gave the man a 2-year, $34 million deal. Frankie Montas is not worth $17 million a year. I don't care that he had decent seasons with the Brewers. I don't care that he has a history with David Stearns. I don't care that he had a good season when the Athletics were in Oakland. I said from the beginning, I did not like the signing. I wish God could come down from heaven and heal Griffin Canning's torn Achilles, because Griffin Canning, a guy with worse career numbers than Frankie Montas, has been a better pitcher for the Mets than Montas, and he gets paid far less than Montas. I've seen enough of Frankie Montas. I don't want to see any more of Frankie Montas. I don't. I do not want to see any more of Frankie Montas. If Frankie Montas never pitches for the Mets ever again, I am perfectly okay with that. You know what? I'm going to play a clip. They asked the media, they being the media, they asked Carlos Mendoza in the last press conference about Frankie Montas. Frankie Montas' next scheduled start is Saturday against the Brewers in Milwaukee. Now, mind you, we're going to play the Brewers this weekend in Milwaukee. The Brewers, for all things considered, now mind you, we won a series against them at home in July last month. But mind you, this Brewers team is not a slouch. The Brewers, all things considered, are first place in the NL Central by 3.5 games as of right now over the Cubs. So when they asked Carlos Mendoza, what about Montas? What have you seen? What's the plan going forward? This is what he had to say.
Yeah, so we're having those discussions here. He is going to pitch against the Brewers. So after the off day, but because we have an off day in between that series, we could get creative. So maybe an opener in front of him, but as of right on Saturday, he's going to play a part of that game. So depending on how we get through on Friday, we'll see. But he's, like I said, on Saturday he's pitching.
I guess just the way you're describing this, then how much of Montas are you kind of just taking this start by start now?
No, I mean, I don't want to get too far ahead. Right now we're talking about next start, and that's what we got. I spoke with him earlier today. He's going to prepare to, as he's started, but there's a scenario where we could go an opener here.
Did you folks hear what Mendy said? Carlos Mendoza just said they're going to go with an opener in front of Frankie Montas. You signed the guy to be a starting pitcher. Why do you need a bullpen guy to start the game than to bring him in? It doesn't make sense. I don't have any faith in him. The fans don't have any faith in him. And by that answer in the press conference, it is clear that Carlos Mendoza, the manager of this team, also does not have faith in him. Now, Jeremy Hefner, our pitching coach, infamous for using the pitching lab. But even the pitching lab, Jesus Christ, and a pitching 101 seminar from Nolan Ryan could not help Frankie Montas. They're going with an opener in front of the starter. So you're going to burn a bullpen arm for 1 inning. For 1 inning, you're going to burn a bullpen arm to then trot this bum out there. And we're playing the Brewers. Does anybody understand the magnitude of that lineup? Andrew Monasterio, Jackson Churio, Christian Yelich, William Contreras, Sal Frelick. They are going to have fun with Frankie Montas. Fun! Frankie Montas does not strike fear into the hearts of any opposing batter. None whatsoever. He strikes fear into me, though, because when I see he's the starting pitcher, I expect a loss. Get rid of him. And I'm usually not one to rush prospects up. I'm usually not one to say, let's call this guy up. But you know what? For as much as David Stearns did for the bullpen, he could not get a starter at the deadline. Now, granted, I admit prices were high, but we had enough capital in the farm system to get another starting pitcher. Let's go to the comments before I continue. Eric Ruiz, my friend, says, stock up. I mean, Willie Adames can't play anywhere but short, so unless you're making him or Lindor DH, and I wouldn't make Lindor DH because of his defensive skill, I don't know about that. Bobby Munoz, another game or two should be enough for Mullins to get acclimated. Pitching-wise, Montas got to go. Listen, you could go back on this YouTube channel. I made 2 videos. One saying, I don't want Montas on this team anymore. The man had a 13.50 ERA in AAA. The man couldn't even get out of a softball game, let alone pitch against major league talent, and they still put him out there. Sometimes when a guy don't got it, he just don't got it. Romy says, fleecing the Mets. Yes, I am fleecing the Mets. Frankie about to have his best pitching game this weekend. I am not a betting man. Listen, if I was a bettor and I saw whoever the Mets were playing were going up against Frankie Montas, I would tell you, take the other team. Money line. Matter of fact, run line, because Montas is so damn bad. My good friend Elliot Nicodemi. Hey, Big Al. I hope to see you at City real soon. Tell you and your family and Michelle I said hi. Good guy, El is. Roberto Reynoso, I hope Romy is right. I doubt he is right. Brewers first 5 money line, a lock for Saturday at Hey, listen, you heard it here first. If you want to bet Brewers first 5 money line on Saturday with Montas going, be my guest, win the money, and give me 10% of what you win since I told you that that's the play. And, of course, always love, El. Thank you for tuning in. But Frankie Montas, has to go. He's got to go. You know what, Steve Cohen? You are the richest owner in baseball. Matter of fact, you're the richest owner in North American sports. Designate him for assignment and pay him what you owe him and get him the hell out of here. I don't want to see Frankie Montas in Flushing unless he's wearing a different uniform. Or maybe put him on the ground screw. Maybe he might be good for something during a rain delay. Or maybe, well, no, I wouldn't even put him in the Mr. Met uniform because he might ruin that too. But Sean Manaea is another one. Now, Manaea, if we go back to the graphic, Manaea is a bit better. ERA a little over 3.5, not too bad. Unlike his friend Montas there, he's got 25 Ks in 23 innings pitched. He's got a 1-1 record. You can't really look at win-loss record because it doesn't tell the full story. But these two guys struggling. You look at Manaea and his recent starts. Manaea, he gave up 5 runs on Monday. If we look at his overall production since he's returned from injury, right before the All-Star break, July 13th at Kansas City, he went 3 1/3 innings in relief. He didn't start. Gave up 1 earned run on 5 hits. That's not bad. Gave up the game-winning hit. Not bad. 7 strikeouts in 3 1/3. July 18th against the Cincinnati Reds, 4 innings pitched, 1 earned run on 1 hit. He walked 2, struck out 6. Not a bad line. 5 innings pitched on July 23rd against the Angels. He gave up 1 run on 2 hits, walked 2, struck out 5. Still not a bad line. Then against the Padres, gave up 1 run on 3 hits, no walks, struck out 4. So Manaea, not bad lines. And then Cleveland on Monday, 5 runs on 7 hits, struck out 3, walked nobody. But the problem why I say he's struggling, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games, 4 starts out of the 5 games. And in something that has plagued Mets pitching all year, cannot make it past the 5th. Just like Clay Holmes, like Griffin Canning before he got hurt. Blade Tidwell could never go 5. Thank God he's gone. That guy proved he cannot pitch in the majors. But Manaea, I guess it's an injury thing. His injury kept him out up until July. He was gone all of spring training, so I guess they got to work him back slowly, but he could not. This Mets starting pitching, outside of Kodai Senga, none of them make it to 6. David Peterson on occasion. Well, David Peterson's got a complete game this season, but Peterson and Senga, the only 2 in the rotation who consistently can go for more than 5 innings. Come playoff time, that's got to change. If the Mets can even make the playoffs, because God forbid they have a bad weekend and the Reds have a good weekend. Now it's falling apart. But the pitching staff has got to do better. Manaea, maybe he'll come along, because those lines that he had are not bad. It's just he just got to get going. That's all. Maybe they're bringing him along slowly. I don't know, but Manaea got to get back to form. Is it time to panic? I would say yes. I personally would panic, and I'll tell you why. I would panic if oh, wait, hold on I'll Dan Powers, I see your comment. I'm going to get to you in a second. I know Dan went to today's game. He's a good friend of mine. We'll get to his comment in a second. I would panic only for the simple fact of, number one, we're in August, right? It's not like we're in May or June or even July. We are in August. It's coming down to the wire. This is the worst time to lose games, and especially because Philly can't seem to lose when we win. And when we lose, Philly seems to win. So here's my thing. The Mets have already played 115 games this season. There are only 47 games left the rest of the way. The Mets have time, and they have a 3-game cushion. What the Mets need to do is win. Don't even worry about the division at this point. You don't have a chance to win the World Series if you don't get to October. And to get to October, you at least got to get a wild card. Minimum, you got to get a wild card. We have comments here. Dan Powers, my good friend, says, evidence was shown today. I was expecting more, and maybe Alonso at least tying the Mets' all-time home run record. YouTube comment, waste of space 20. There's nothing to panic about. This team has been playing terribly for over a month already. And that's what I'm talking about. Yes, they have been playing terribly for over a month already. But when they had that collapse in June, where they went on that stretch of losing 15 to 18, they were still in first place because the Phillies, they just couldn't seem to win at the time. But with 47 games left, forget trying to get the division. 47 games left on the schedule. You have to win and hope that the Giants and the Reds continue to lose. The Reds beat us in a series 2-1 at home a couple weekends ago. And those had to hurt. Those hurt. I'm not going to lie. Those hurt. Now, the Reds 3 games back. Luckily, they have a bit of a tough schedule coming up. The Giants, and again, I'm very surprised. The Giants, they were sellers at the deadline. They sold off Camilo Doval to the Yankees. They sold Tyler Rogers to us. They got rid of Mike Yastrzemski. which was very surprising considering how he's been a great hitter for them all year. So nobody expected them to compete for anything past the deadline. They made that Rafi Devers trade, and things went downhill shortly after. But they're right in the wild card mix too. This NL wild card mix is competitive. I think the Cubs are gonna at the end of the season. The Cubs are gonna be a wild card team. The Padres are gonna get in. The NL West is always gonna have minimum 2 teams in the playoffs. Whoever was the division winner and whoever finishes second in that division historically have always been in the playoffs. There have been some years where there's been 3 teams from that division in the playoffs. Waste of Space 20 says, I love your channel, by the way. It's way more objective and you are more analytical than most of the other guys with channels. I thank you so much. I'm just a guy who looks at numbers, tells the truth, and speaks things for what it is. So I definitely appreciate you, Waste of Space 20, tuning in. Much love to you. But again, 47 games, that's not a lot of time. That is not a lot of time at all, especially because if the Mets continue to free fall, again, it opens the door for Cincinnati, opens the door for San Francisco. I would be comfortable if the Mets could at least in the wild card catch the Padres. Granted, you're only moving 1 spot up, but you give yourself a little bit of a cushion in case the Padres happen to slip. Let's look at the Mets' upcoming schedule. I've been wrong in my predictions lately because nobody has expected the offense to cool down as much as it has. But we look at the Mets' upcoming games. So they're off tomorrow. Tomorrow, no game, off day. Travel to Milwaukee for 3. Now, this is the monumental series. Coming back home for a homestand, mind you, 3 games away. They come back. They play Milwaukee Friday, Saturday, Sunday, off day Monday. Come back for a 3-game series against the Braves Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Then they play the Mariners on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then after that series, off day that Monday to play the Nationals for 3 before going back to play the Braves again. Now, you look at the schedule, the Brewers are going to be tough. The Brewers are going to be tough. The Brewers always play the Mets tough. The Brewers are the NL Central division leaders right now. They're up 3.5 games. They're trying to hold the Cubs at bay. So they have something to play for. So we look at the probable pitching matchups for that series. Friday, Kodai Senga goes up against Brandon Woodruff. My guy, Clint Alexander, friend of the show. Hello, how you doing? Kodai Senga now. Senga looked bad in his last start. Barry Grant Jr. says, September is murderer's row. This is unacceptable. Yes, it is unacceptable. But Friday is Kodai Senga against Brandon Woodruff. Now, Senga has been the ace of the staff. There's no arguing that. 7-3 with a 2.31 ERA. However, Senga had a bad start his last time out. That was on Saturday against the Giants in a game that the Mets surprisingly won. Senga only went 4 innings, gave up 4 runs on 5 hits, 4 strikeouts to 3 walks. So the Mets won the game, but Senga, horrible outing. Ghost Fork was off on that day. Mets, however, the offense put up 12 runs in a rare feat of offensive prowess. Brandon Woodruff for the Brewers. At the time that he made his MLB debut, they said he was going to be better than Corbin Burns. Obviously, we've seen how both careers have played out, but Woodruff having a bounce-back year this year, coming off an injury. He's 3-0 with a 2.22 ERA. Waste of space. I see your question. I'm going to answer it momentarily. Saturday's game, again, we said it at a little while ago. We played the clip of Mendy at the press conference. They're going to start the game with a reliever on Saturday, and they're going to bring Montas in the second inning. That is the plan. Again, why in the world would you burn a bullpen arm for 1 inning and then put the guy who's supposed to be the starter in? Makes no sense. Why does a starter need an opener? I understand he's been struggling, but he's not struggling because he's not good. But anyway, whoever the bullpen arm is, whoever that may be, will pitch the first inning. Montas will take over in the second. Taking the hill for the Brewers in that game is Logan Henderson. He's 3-0 with a 1.78 ERA. And then in the finale on Sunday, Sean Manaea up against Quinn Priester. Now look at Quinn Priester's numbers. 11-2, 3.15 ERA, 93 strikeouts. That's why the Brewers are a first-place team. Their pitching is locked down. Friday starter, 2.22 ERA. Saturday starter, 1.78. And Sunday starter, 3.15. That, my friends, is how you get first place in a division. When you have an offense that's been solid all year and you have a pitching staff that, and mind you, nobody expected the Brewers at the beginning of this season to be a first-place team. Everybody said the Cubs, the Cubs, the Cubs, the Cubs, with Pete Crow Armstrong and Ian Happ and Kyle Tucker and Dansby Swanson and Seiya Suzuki and all these guys. But this is not a Brewers podcast. We don't cover NL Central in depth. So that's that. Waste of Space asks, what do I think about getting rid of Drew Gilbert in that trade, despite the fact he hit 375 in Syracuse last month? I said this on the show last week, but I'll say it again just in case. For those who didn't tune in last week, you're here now. I appreciate you. Drew Gilbert had no chance to make the Mets roster because he was a Billy Epler draft pick. So understandably, and again, I always say this, prospects are like boxes of chocolate. You never know what you're going to get until you actually have them. What I mean by that is prospects are highly coveted, and sometimes they pan out and sometimes they don't. You look at Jared Kelenic. When we traded Jared Kelenic to the Seattle Mariners in a trade that brought us Edwin Diaz and Robinson Cano, everybody laughed at us and said, what were we doing? Jared Kelenic is now a fringe major league player who has been on 2 teams and has accomplished hardly anything. Pete Crow Armstrong, I wish we could have kept him, but nobody could have predicted that PCA was going to be this superstar center fielder. So as far as Gilbert, because he was an Epler guy, I don't think that he had a chance to make it here. Especially with the emergence of how Carson Benj has been hitting in Binghamton. I think they're very high on Carson Benj. When Carson Benj emerged, that pushed any chance of Drew Gilbert having to make the majors with us to the side. And of course, Jet Williams is Jet Williams. So the outfield for the future is going to be Williams, Benj, Soto, in my opinion. Waste of Space also says, respect to the Brewers for trusting their farm system and development. Well said, thank you. Yeah, the Brewers, this is a team, they build from within. And that's one thing I respect about Stearns, because you see how strong the Mets farm system is. Carson Benj, Jonah Tong, Nolan McLean, Brandon Sproat. I could go on and on and on and keep naming prospects. Kevin Parada. Really solid, good guys in Syracuse, in Binghamton, even in Brooklyn in Single A. That was one thing that I liked when we decided to hire. David Stearns, his ability to develop the farm system. Now, again, development of the farm system could go one in 2 ways. You could develop the farm system that way. When you need a player, you could easily go to the farm and call the guy up. Or you can build up the farm system so good that if you need to acquire a game-changing player, you have many of prospects to pick from to send to the other team. But Stearns has done a great job with Jonah Tong. Again, he is the minor league strikeout leader so far this year. Again, Jet Williams. He drafted Mitch Voigt. I love Mitch Voigt. He was a Michigan Wolverine, solid draft pick. Again, Brandon Sproat is down in the minors. So the future is bright for the Mets if they want it to be, as long as they don't get rid of those guys. But Milwaukee, for Milwaukee's sake, that's a team that was built within. I think with all of the prospects that they have called up in the last 5 years, only Keston Hiura did not work out. And that tells you a lot. Because you look at William Contreras, you look at Sal Frelick, all homegrown guys, Andrew Monasterio, Jackson Churio, all homegrown guys that were drafted by the Brewers, came up in their organization and made it to the show. So I want to touch on this Mets bullpen really quickly. I got to be honest. Out of the 3 trade deadline acquisitions that David Stearns made, Gregory Soto, Tyler Rogers, Ryan Helsley, the best one has been Ryan Helsley. And I feel that way because Gregory Soto, and I said this when we first got him, I said it on the Metropolitan Report last week when we went live. Gregory Soto, when he's good, he's great. Former closer, former all-star for the Detroit Tigers in 2021 and 2022. Was the setup man in Baltimore behind Felix Bautista this season. And again, he was a trade deadline acquisition last season for when they made their run to postseason before getting eliminated in the first round. But Gregory Soto, since he's been on the Mets, I have not liked what I've seen from Soto. Hold on one second. Barry Grant Jr. Can we talk about the real issue? Eric Chavez and Jeremy Barnes. Barry, I'm assuming that you came here late. I spoke about Barnes and Chavez about 20 minutes ago, but I do say that a coaching change is needed. But yeah, Gregory Soto, if we look at his Mets output so far this season, I have not liked what I saw. I was at Citi Field on Tuesday night when the Mets lost to the Guardians by a run. Gregory Soto was the one who blew the lead. The Mets were up 2-1 when Gregory Soto entered the game. Since being a New York Met, Gregory Soto, oh no, that's advanced analytics. We don't talk advanced analytics on this program. Oh, that's advanced analytics too. All right, since being a Met, Gregory Soto, 0-1, technically has no ERA, but he's pitched in 4 games, 3 1/3 innings, 1 run on 3 hits, and 4 strikeouts. So not bad, but I haven't liked his pitch location. Looks nervous. Again, gave up the lead yesterday. How he has no ERA as a Met is beyond me. But, well, no, he has no ERA technically because Clay Holmes left that man on base and they put Soto in. So he gave up the hit that drove in the run, but the run belonged to Clay Holmes. But I haven't liked his stuff. No control, no good velocity. Gregory Soto looking like he was great in Baltimore this season. And I don't know why it has not translated. Why it has not translated to the Mets. I can't for the life of me figure it out. We got Dan Powers in the comments here. Can the Mets call up Jonah Tong, or do they have to wait till September? Unless I'm mistaken, last time I recall, the Mets calling up a top prospect straight from AA was Michael Conforto 10 years ago. They ended up going to the World Series, but everyone's saying it was Cespedes. All right, Dan, I'm going to give you my opinion on your comment. I would not call up Jonah Tong just yet. And reason being is because it's not like he's pitching in AAA. He's pitching in AA. That's 2 levels below major league talent. I would like to see if Jonah Tong can maintain his pitching dominance in AAA before I consider calling him up. I understand Conforto got called up from AA, but that was a very rare circumstance. Also, I wouldn't say Conforto was the reason why the Mets got to the 15 World Series. I would say it was more Cespedes because, yes, Cespedes, say what you will about his later seasons with the Mets, but that trade deadline acquisition for Yoenis Cespedes is what turned the Mets around that season. He had a heck of a playoffs. And then, of course, let's not forget Daniel Murphy's historic playoff run that year where Murphy hit had 8 consecutive games with a homer en route to the Mets taking the NL pennant. So I wouldn't give Conforto any credit. He was a rookie. And then, of course, contributions from other guys. David Wright stepped up in that playoffs huge, despite being on the back end of his career. Curtis Granderson was solid for the team at the time. And Wilmer Flores also was great for the Mets at that time. And then, of course, the Mets pitching staff, Jacob deGrom, Noah Syndergaard, prime Matt Harvey, even Bartolo Colon. So I don't give Conforto much credit for that 2015 run, considering he played, a little under 50 games that year. Barry Grant Jr. says Soto is the worst acquisition. He's talking about Gregory, not Juan. I agree. He's either really solid or can't find the zone. And like I've said about Soto, when he's good, he's great. When he's bad, he's terrible. So that's my opinion on Soto. And then we go to Tyler Rogers. Now, I said last week on this program that the Mets overpaid for Tyler Rogers. Again, the Mets gave up Drew Gilbert, who some people like Waste of Space 20 is high on, and some people are not. I thought Drew Gilbert, again, one of the greatest outfielders to ever come from the University of Tennessee, I thought that he was good. Apparently, Stearns thought to ship him off, and Jose Butto, who was a fan favorite of mine, but I'll put it to you like this, folks. And it's crazy because I had somebody comment on my YouTube because I complained about Rogers' win-loss record. At the time we acquired Tyler Rogers, he was 4-3. Somebody said, well, how can you criticize a man who has more wins than losses? For a reliever, it's different than a starting pitcher. For a reliever to get a loss, the game that he enters, either his team has to be winning and he blew the lead, or he's responsible for the winning runs or the go-ahead run scoring. Now, a reliever that's 4-3, yes, the ERA is under 2. The ERA is under 2. I understand that. But he had 3 losses. That tells you he has blown 3 chances to put the game away. That tells you that there were 3 high leverage situations he could not handle. He wasn't even the closer in San Francisco. Camilo Doval was the closer for the Giants. And Rogers blew more chances to put the game away than Doval did. Since being a Met, want to look at Tyler Rogers' numbers. 0-1, ERA of 3 in 3 games, 3 innings pitched, 1 earned run on 5 hits, 1 strikeout, no walks. Guy's not pitching like a deadline acquisition. I know the sample size is small, but I haven't liked what I've seen from Rogers either. His command is not there. The command is not there for Tyler Rogers. And it's because I said I feel that the Mets overpaid. Drew Gilbert and Jose Butto, for what it's worth, has pitched in some pretty decent leverage situations so far this season. Well, I can't even say so far this season because he's not on the team anymore. But Jose Butto was a guy in our bullpen that I really, really liked. And I've seen more out of Jose Butto than most bullpen arms that the Mets have had the last couple of seasons. Part of that magical 2024 run from last season where the Mets got to the NLCS doesn't happen if you don't have Jose Butto on your staff. So, but Ryan Helsley, now Helsley, he's the guy. You want to talk about a guy who is the perfect addition to this team. Now, mind you, he was a closer where he was, and now he's gone to the setup man. So not exactly high leverage situations, but Ryan Helsley has pitched in 3 games. He's given up 2 runs on 2 hits. He's given up 2 runs on 2 hits, and that's it. Struck out 5 and walked 1. Every pitcher is going to give up runs. But to only give up 2 runs and only give up 2 hits the entire time you've been on the team, not too bad. Out of the 3 trade deadline acquisitions, I like Helsley. I'll put it in order. Helsley, Rogers, Soto. Now, Rogers is a free agent at the end of the year. In his introductory press conference, he was asked, would he go back to the Giants? And the answer he gave did not sound like a no. I think he will end up with the Giants when spring training next season breaks out. But I would sincerely hope that he gives his best effort to the Mets while he's still here. Our friend Dan Powers says regarding Murphy, 6 games actually. Murphy started his home run streak game for the NLDS versus the Dodgers and did so in all 4 games versus the Cubs. If he continued in the World Series, and maybe not all games, but hit a couple of home runs, had clutch hits in defense, I could have seen him being the 2015 World Series MVP. Yeah, if we would have won the series. I still have nightmares about Eric Hosmer from time to time. But we are going to end the show on a very fun note here. The battle, I call this the battle of the bullpen entrances. Now, everybody knows Edwin, Diaz, and the trumpets and the light show that goes off. Well, matter of fact, if you've never been to Citi Field before and you've never seen it in person, I'm going to show you right now. Ryan Helsley now has he's brought over his special entrance with Hell's Bells from the St. Louis Cardinals. And my question to the viewers out there, who has the better bullpen entrance, Ryan Helsley or Edwin Diaz? First, I'm going to show you Ryan Helsley's. Here it is. Come on, Helsley!
That's funny, Hell's Bells, man.
All right. So that was Ryan Helsley's entrance with Hell's Bells. And here's the classic every Mets fan since 2021 has loved. Coming out to the tunes of Narco by Blaster Jacks and Timmy Trumpets, here's Edwin Diaz. right, let's get the comments. Dan Powers says, for Helsley, they should use the entire song. For Diaz, just the bells, and then go right into Narco, the best of both worlds. Hey, if both guys agree to it, wonder what a spectacle that could be. Waste of Space 20 says, great show, man. You are one of the very few guys who can talk about our farm system with a depth of knowledge, and you are extremely entertaining and insightful. I'll be a regular viewer. Waste of Space, that is incredible feedback. I thank you so much. Your support means a lot to me. Yeah, and I appreciate you watching, and I'll be bringing you much more content as the weeks come out. We'll go live once a week every week, and then in between, we'll post some extra videos just in case any breaking news may happen between now and next week. And then Adorable Snowflake. I like the Diaz entrance. It's a classic. I will admit, Edwin Diaz has been with us since 2019. He's used this entrance since 2021. So I am more partial to Edwin Diaz. I got to get used to Hell's Bells only because the song doesn't start until the actual song doesn't start until he's taking his warm-up pitches. But I get it because Hells, for Ryan Helsley, he wants the bells that sound at the beginning of the entrance. So I get it. But for those of you who watch this episode after when it goes archive on YouTube, please let me know in the comments which entrance you like better, Ryan Helsley or Edwin Diaz. But folks, it is time. We've been on here live for over an hour. I will continue to bring you Mets content throughout the next couple of days. So stay tuned to the YouTube channel. Don't forget, like, subscribe, and share this podcast. For those of you on Facebook, like, subscribe, share, comment. For those of you on Twitch, same thing. Like, subscribe, comment. And I hope to hear from you and see you guys next week when we go live. We will be back on this show with a live show on Monday. Monday. Since that is a Mets off day, we will be back live. Ladies and gentlemen, I tip my hat and thank each and every one of my supporters and everybody who took the time out of their schedules to watch this program. I've said everything there is to say, and the only thing left to say is, let's go Mets.